Charles Barkley might be the most famous player to never win it all, and that's exactly why his legacy hits harder than most champions. At 6'6", he dominated giants twice his size, bullied his way to rebounds, and scored with the efficiency of a center and the flair of a guard. Barkley wasn't just an MVP, he was a one-man wrecking crew who could drop 40 and 20 on any given night. But his biggest opponent wasn't on the court, it was timing. His prime ran straight into Michael Jordan's empire, and every time he got close, the Bulls were there to shut the door. Even when he joined Houston to chase that elusive ring, fate laughed back. Still, Barkley's influence transcended trophies. His personality, his power, and his presence made him unforgettable. And today, his words carry as much weight as his game once did. He may have lost the finals, but he won something bigger. Relevance that never fades. John Stockton. John Stockton wasn't flashy, but he didn't need to be. The man was basketball's version of a machine, calculated, cold, and impossibly consistent. With a record 15,806 assists, Stockton turned passing into poetry, orchestrating Utah's offense like it was a symphony. He wasn't fast, he wasn't strong, but he was always 5 moves ahead. Teammates swore he never made a bad pass. His chemistry with Karl Malone was so synchronized it felt telepathic. But that partnership, as magical as it was, ran into the same nightmare Barkley faced: Michael Jordan. Twice, Stockton came within reach of a ring, only to have the Bulls end his dream. The most frustrating part, he never choked, never folded. He just played in an era where perfection wasn't enough. Even now, his assist and steal records feel unbreakable, like relics from another universe. Stockton never needed a trophy to validate his greatness. He built a career out of making everyone else better. Karl Malone. Karl Malone was built like a tank, moved like a truck, and scored like it was his job because it was. The mailman didn't just deliver, he dominated. 17 straight seasons, averaging over 20 points, 2 MVPs, and a top 3 spot on the all-time scoring list. But every legend needs a rival, and Malone's was cruel: Jordan. Twice he reached the finals, twice he walked away empty-handed. And even when he joined the Lakers late in his career, injuries robbed him of that final chance. Critics knock him for never winning, but his durability and production were absurd. The man played nearly 2 decades without slowing down. He was relentless, efficient, and terrifying in the pick and roll. Yet the one package he could never deliver was a championship. In a different timeline, Malone might have been the greatest power forward ever, but instead, he's the ultimate symbol of dominance denied. And what happened to the next player made that pain look familiar: Allen Iverson. Allen Iverson didn't just play basketball, he lived it, bled it, and redefined it. Standing 6 feet tall on paper and maybe 5'11" in reality, he was the smallest player to ever carry a franchise by himself. In 2001, he dragged a ragtag Sixers squad to the finals through sheer willpower. He crossed up legends, took hits from giants, and still led the league in scoring 4 times. His crossover became culture, his attitude became rebellion, and his legacy became myth. But as great as he was, Iverson's downfall was the same thing that made him special: his independence. He played his way, lived his way, and refused to bend to anyone's system. That stubbornness cost him longevity and, ultimately, a ring. Yet his influence outlived his stats. Every undersized guard who attacks the rim today owes him something. He didn't need a championship to prove greatness. He changed the game without one, and the next player did the same, but from the opposite approach: Steve Nash. Steve Nash never had the athleticism of his peers, but he made the game beautiful. 2-time MVP, 8-time All-Star, and the mastermind of the most entertaining offense the league had ever seen. Nash turned the Phoenix Suns into a revolution. They didn't play basketball. They painted art on hardwood. He dissected defenses with surgical precision, hitting shooters in stride and making Amari Stoudemire look unstoppable. But his brilliance met the cruelty of playoff chaos. Suspensions, injuries, and heartbreaks. Every year, it seemed like bad luck had his number. He even joined the Lakers late in his career, hoping to finally grab a ring. But by then, his back betrayed him. Nash proved that winning isn't the only measure of impact. He changed how the NBA thought about pace, spacing, and movement. Players like Curry and Doncic are his basketball children. Nash didn't need to win at all. He already changed everything, but it gets crazier with who came next. Patrick Ewing. Patrick Ewing carried the weight of New York on his shoulders, and that weight was heavy. The Knicks of the 90s were tough, gritty, and everything the city wanted to believe in. And Ewing was their anchor, dominant on defense, unstoppable in the post, and relentless on both ends. He made the playoffs 13 straight times, dragging rosters that often lacked elite talent deep into the postseason. But fate was cruel. Every year, a roadblock appeared. Michael Jordan, Hakeem Olajuwon, or the Twin Towers of San Antonio. Even when Jordan retired, Ewing's best chance slipped away in a Game 7 heartbreak against Houston. He never complained, never quit, but destiny never rewarded his loyalty. He remains the greatest Knick to never touch the trophy, a king without a crown. Reggie Miller. Reggie Miller was built for the moment. Skinny frame, deadly shot, and a swagger that could cut through silence. He was the NBA's ultimate villain. Reggie wasn't the fastest or strongest, but his timing was surgical. He moved like a shadow through screens and struck when defenses blinked. His duel with the Knicks in 1995 still echoes in NBA history, when he scored 8 points in 9 seconds and left Madison Square Garden stunned. But when his Pacers finally reached the finals in 2000, the Kobe and Shaq Lakers crushed his dream. Miller retired without a ring, but not without respect. His shooting paved the way for the modern three-point revolution. He was Steph Curry before Steph Curry. But first, only cool people are subscribed to this channel, so hit that subscribe button before we go any further. Elgin Baylor. Elgin Baylor was basketball's original tragedy of greatness. Before MJ, before LeBron, there was Baylor, an athletic marvel who soared before dunking was even fashionable. He averaged 27 points and 13 rebounds for his career, playing above the rim when most of the league hadn't even imagined that style yet. But luck never smiled on it. Baylor reached the finals 8 times, losing every single one. Then came the cruelest twist. He retired just 9 games into the 1972 season, the same year the Lakers finally won it all. They gave him a ring, but he didn't play a single playoff minute. Baylor had done everything right, revolutionized the game, carried losing rosters, and set records. Yet fate locked the door right before he could step through. Tracy Mcgrady. Tracy Mcgrady was a walking cheat code trapped in an unlucky timeline. At his peak, he could do everything. Shoot, pass, rebound, and glide through defenses like he was playing on easy mode. In 2003, he averaged over 32 points per game and made it look casual. But every time the playoffs came around, his teams folded before he ever had a real chance. It wasn't all his fault. Injuries, weak supporting casts, and bad front offices did him no favors. Even when he joined the Spurs at the very end, hoping to finally win one, fate struck again. He sat on the bench as San Antonio lost in the finals. Vince Carter. Vince Carter's career was 2 different movies. The first half was pure chaos. Dunks that looked like physics experiments gone wrong, posters that turned defenders into memes, and a swagger that made him the face of early 2000s basketball. But after his athleticism faded, Carter reinvented himself. He became the wise veteran, the steady shooter, the mentor who outlasted nearly everyone. 22 seasons, the longest in NBA history, and yet no championship. He came close in Dallas, had moments in Toronto and New Jersey, but the timing never aligned. What makes Carter's story unique is that he never chased a cheap ring. He kept grinding, kept playing, kept teaching. Carter proved that greatness isn't always about the finish line. Sometimes it's about staying in the race. George Gervin. George Gervin wasn't called the Iceman for nothing. His game was effortless, elegant, and lethal. While others sweated through contact, Gervin floated through defenders, finishing plays with his trademark finger roll. He won 4 scoring titles and averaged over 25 points per game across his career. But the Spurs never gave him a championship caliber team. The 70s and early 80s were stacked with powerhouse franchises, and Gervin's Spurs were always just a step short. He didn't rant, didn't chase headlines. He just scored, night after night, with an ease that felt unfair. And if he played in today's pace and space era, he might average 35 a night. Gervin's smoothness made him unforgettable, but also underappreciated. A superstar without the storybook ending. But the next name on this list never cared about style. His game was raw power. Dominique Wilkins. Dominique Wilkins was the human highlight film for a reason. Every game, he'd dunk like he was mad at the rim. Ferocious, explosive, and unapologetically showy. But beyond the posters, Wilkins was an elite scorer, averaging over 25 points per game for a decade straight. His battles with Larry Bird and the Celtics were legendary, but his Hawks never had the supporting cast to push through the East. Even when he dropped 47 in a playoff loss, it wasn't enough. He was trapped in the wrong era, always overshadowed by dynasties. Wilkins' career became the ultimate case of greatness lost in translation. Dominant numbers, iconic moments, but no finals appearances. He played with passion, fought through an Achilles tear, and came back to average 29 points. But the basketball gods gave him everything except a ring. And while Dominique burned bright, the next player's story is about endurance, an endless heartbreak. Chris Paul. Chris Paul was supposed to be the one, the point god. a master of control who could bend games to his will. And for 2 decades, he almost did. Paul ranks near the top in assists, steals, and basketball IQ, orchestrating offenses like a chess grandmaster. But every time the playoffs came, something went wrong. Injuries, blown leads, or sheer bad luck. The 2018 Rockets were a hamstring away from taking down the Warriors dynasty, but fate struck again. In 2021, he reached the finals at last and lost. Paul's career has become the ultimate paradox. Flawless execution without the final reward. Still, his impact is undeniable. He made every team smarter, every offense sharper, and every opponent sweat. Yet that empty finger reminds everyone that perfection doesn't guarantee glory. And speaking of chaos, the next player built his legacy on it. Russel Westbrook. Russel Westbrook doesn't play basketball. He detonates it. Every possession is an explosion of energy, emotion, and intensity. He's the only player since Oscar Robertson to average a triple-double, and he's done it multiple times. His MVP season in 2017 was pure fury, a solo mission of revenge after Kevin Durant left OKC. But that fire came with consequences. Westbrook's passion often turned into recklessness, and his playoff runs ended in frustration. He's been criticized, traded, and mocked, yet he never stopped attacking. Westbrook redefined effort in the NBA. His flaws are obvious, but his relentlessness is legendary. He plays every game like it's personal, and in a league built on image, that raw authenticity stands out. Still, no matter how hard he fights, the ring stays out of reach, and the next player might understand that feeling better than anyone, James Harden. James Harden's game was controversial, but his numbers were undeniable. The step-back three, the endless free throws, the isolation plays that broke defenses, he turned analytics into dominance. An MVP, 3-time scoring champ, and one of the most creative offensive minds ever. Yet every postseason, the same story played out. Fatigue, inconsistency, and collapse. He came close in Houston, teaming with CP3, but that Game 7 against Golden State still haunts him. Harden might never win the big one, but his influence on modern basketball is permanent. He changed how the game is played, how fouls are drawn, and how stars control their careers. If you like this video, consider watching this next one, which YouTube thinks you're going to really love.